Hey, welcome to News from Heaven, the show where we're trying to figure out the nature of life and the mind by taking an annotated journey through the writings of Swedenborg. Thanks for hanging out. If you've been hanging for a little while and you dig it, do people still say dig it anymore? Like and subscribe. That's what's going to let us know you like it. It lets YouTube know you like it. It's how shows like this keep going. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. This time, we are going to be looking at how evil spirits attack us. Of course, it's a great thing to talk about as we head into the new year. And we're going to go into how evil fights, what evil attacks, and our awareness of the attack. I've never been attacked by evil spirits. Are you sure? Do you know that for sure? And what we're doing in this and every episode is we're trying to raise above the everyday malaise. This is the stuff that gets into our mind, and even though there's something higher that's good and true up here, we walk around worried about a particular situation, or we walk around. You know what I'm talking about, right? What's going on for you? If you don't mind, share it in the comments, because I think when people see other people sharing their struggles, they feel like, oh, I'm not so alone. We all have them. Whatever it is that the mind is trying to get us to believe that makes us much less happy than we could be. Last time we established how that's actually because evil spirits, yeah, I said evil spirits, are not, it's not quite this direct, but they're attacking us through our minds. And today, we're going to look at just how that happens, and hopefully that gives us the awareness and the tools necessary to, bam, block that stuff and send it back. We're going to be continuing Secrets of Heaven, Volume 2. Download it from the link in the description. Do a huge scroll down to 1820, subsection 3. We're on now. So let's just, it's a perfectly serviceable afternoon. Let's take a look at how evil spirits attack us. They do not fight. This is evil spirits in the mind going after us. They do not fight by arguing against what is good and true. Okay, so we know what they don't do now. Arguing against what is good and true, that kind of fight is useless. Because if they were beaten 1,000 times, like, hey, I have a pretty good record here. I just beat evil spirits 999 times in a row. Oh, now I got to 1,000. Isn't that going to be the time when they give up? No, they would continue to stand firm, since there is no end to the supply of arguments undercutting goodness and truth. So as a description of spiritual combat, this might sound sort of bizarre, but as a human dynamic, don't you know that you look at the way political arguments happen, or Thanksgiving arguments, which may be one and the same. It doesn't matter what point person X is making, because person Y is going to stand to their point, and it doesn't matter how much you try to disprove it. If someone has an emotional attachment to something, they're going to keep going. In the same way, Swedenborg is saying, in our minds, we can say when evil spirits being at the root of all negative psychology, when they're coming in and saying, this is why you need to be afraid, and you say, well, actually, the truth is, I don't need to be afraid, because God is good, life is good, love is eternal, whatever it is. Oh, man, that hurt. Well, we're coming back in and providing another reason. It's not just like a toe-to-toe, like classical college debate course. Well, now I'll say an argument. It doesn't matter, because that never really changes opinions, because it's all about the emotion. Right? It's about the why. So, and they know that. So they're not going to go just trying to convince you. What they're going to do instead, because you may have a pretty strong spiritual tradition in you, or you may have some principles or something where your negative thoughts and feelings can't get you down. So here's how they're going to try to get around that. Instead, they pervert what is good and true. So you may have some kind of firm idea here that keeps your head above water, and they're just going to add a sneaky twist on it that ends up dragging the whole thing down. Like maybe you have a belief about life that leaves you feeling safe and secure, but they're going to say, yeah, but what if this happens? Or because of this thing, doesn't that make you more vulnerable to this? That's a pretty good example. But isn't that how it works? That whatever you have that's strong, they figure out how to flip your weight against you here. Setting it, and this is starting to get into some really specific descriptions of how negative psychological states operate. I don't know about evil spirits and things like that. I've never seen an evil spirit, but Swedenborg is very good at describing how minds work, or how my mind works. And he happens to say, I saw where this comes from, and its origin is in these spiritual clashes that underlie our psychology. So what are these evil spirits doing? Perverting what is good and true, setting it aflame. Okay, so setting it on fire. It's good fire. With a fire of appetite and delusion. Because there's got to be something in us that hell can work with in the first place. So our weak points, our places where we're similar to them is where we have some kind of delusion we're hanging on to, where we have gaps. You sort of think of the truth as a full circle, but what we don't quite have something about the nature of reality there. That's where they can get in. Or appetite. So this would be the side of you that's like, okay, well, maybe I'll consider that because I just want it. So that for all we know, we share their appetites and delusions. And this is worth noting, that what Swedenborg describes is that we have ourselves, and we have, let's say, our will and our understanding, which would be, the heart side of us and the mind side of us. And we've got some things we've accumulated in there. But then there's this whole spiritual world out there filled with evil spirits, angels, all that, all of which are people who are now living in the next life. Swedenborg 101 for you. But they've got their own stuff going on. They've got their own will, their own understanding, their own thoughts, their own feelings. And evil spirits, let's say these ones are bad over here, a little angry face. They are going to try to insert things that are theirs into us. So that suddenly we feel like this dysfunctional attitude towards life, or this dysfunctional craving, it's ours. And as soon as something feels like it's ours, we're very protective of it, and we're very vulnerable to being led by it. So for all we know, we share their appetites and delusions. Because as soon as we think it's us, there's nothing God can do to take it out of our hands. Because you've probably heard the whole thing about, I'm running out of margin space. That means I'm doing my job. Free will. This is the space around us that God can't just reach into and yank anything out of. So as soon as we're saying, no, this is mine, I want to do something with it, suddenly advantage whoever got us to think that in the first place, because they know how to pull those levers. They also, so there's one thing, but they'll also seize on some unrelated pleasure in us and feed the flames with it. That, to me, when I first was reading this, when I first got into Swedenborg in earnest, I knew about Swedenborg, I knew it was around, but when I started turning to it as something that I wanted to base my life structure on, or I was using it as a psychological fulcrum to kind of get myself up and out. I was in the middle of all this like depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, this really scary internal world. And when I read that, seize on some unrelated pleasure in us and feed the flames with it, it just something clicked for me. And I was thinking, wait a second, because what depression is, and this is, I don't think I have a condition that other people don't have. I think it's all sort of a spectrum, but it's just suddenly you can't sort of decide what matters anymore. You have these things that are scary, and you just can't shake them. And even if you know intellectually, okay, that shouldn't matter, it just matters, and it just keeps mattering. And what Swedenborg is saying is that evil spirits are actually able to deviously come in here and take something that is good and true, your love for something, you're caring about something, and siphon that off as fuel for this delusion that makes us miserable. And that is this huge relief to me, because I thought I was miserable because reality was terrifying. But actually, it's just some corny con job by a passing evil spirit. I don't know if that sounds cool to you, but to me, that is like a diamond of the mind. And I'm serious. So, in this way, they very deviously infect and molest us. So skillfully, and it's worth noting that Swedenborg is not saying that these evil spirits, which are just people that are completely self-centered and willing to prey on other people. You know that they exist in this world. We have to keep our own tendencies to be like that in check. When those people die, they're still around. They're just spirits instead of people, and they just get deeper and deeper into the schemes. So the people that in this life are, entrapping people and assaulting people and all this stuff, they just go after it more and more. That's what it is. And Swedenborg says they know what they're doing, that they have this advantage on us because they know how the spiritual world works, whereas to us it's just like this sort of background psychological haze. He's like, you can't really easily go toe-to-toe. It's better to just know the full picture and say, I'm not even touching what you're dangling there. So skillfully do they work as they spread their contagion. If you watched last episode, we had this germs metaphor, that if the Lord did not help us, we would inevitably die or be annihilated or something. What? Believe them. That's the game. If they did not help us, we would inevitably believe them. Because evil spirits aren't working with the truth. When they're here, and I see this diagram is like really a work of art. What evil spirits on this side aren't working with is the truth. The truth is over here. And the truth is what sets us free, lifts up our minds. Everything about how reality is actually awesome. We'll give this a big T for truth. So in the face of truth, these guys can't do anything. When they see truth, they know, this ruins the game. What they have to do is get us, instead of believing the truth, to believe something false that looks like it's bringing these facts into it, but there's nothing here. There's nothing on this side. Whereas here, there's the living nature of reality, because reality was made by divine love and wisdom, and it is good. That's the stakes. If we believe them, what our mind is telling us, rather than the kind of spiritual truth you find when you hear Swedenborg describing God in heaven and whichever tradition you're getting it from, if they can get you to turn towards their stuff instead of that, that's when they really claim some ground. They level the same attack on the devotion to truth that forms our conscience. Conscience, again, being a complex Swedenborgian term. A lot of us, this is going to be awesome. A lot of us, when we think of conscience, think of Jiminy Cricket. I'm going to try to draw Jiminy Cricket. What does he even look like? He has a little thing. Hey, actually, that's pretty good. A lot of us think of Jiminy Cricket like, okay, should I do that? Shouldn't I do that? The Latin word here, and this is one of the few Swedenborg Latin words I know because I needed to know what he's talking about, is conscientia. Pretend I just wrote it. I don't know how to spell it. Conscientia, and that is something that encompasses both conscience, but also consciousness. Why did I even try to write that? Consciousness. That it's something a little more, there's not an easy English equivalent, but it does have to do with your sense of right and wrong, but it's more than that. And this is something that hell wants to destroy, because as we saw, they don't want you believing the truth, and the most clear way to the truth is knowing what's true and good and what's evil and false. So if they can cut you off from that, you don't have a lifeline to their kryptonite. As soon as they detect a trace of conscience, no matter how imperfect, and realize that we all have a different sense of what's right and wrong, and you've certainly probably encountered people who think something is very good, that you think this should not be done, or you should not be advocating that cause, but you can still be doing something from a genuine sense of, this is right, even if it's not right, even if it is harmful, but if you're doing it from what's good, that's still a valuable part of your conscience. It's still that you're trying to do the right thing. So even if it's off, it's important to us. And so, of course, evil spirits want to destroy it because they're just like the anti-us. No matter how imperfect. And how do you destroy something like that? They take our misconceptions and weaknesses, like the things that we're not straight on, the things that we have some kind of emotional or cognitive vulnerability to, and they can sniff this out and shape them into and look at this, man. This is not every part of these lines is not what I thought he was going to say. I just shape them into some kind of intellectual collage or mess, but into a fog of emotion. And if you've ever had the pleasure of having major depression or something like that, it's a fog of emotion is a great term for it. It's just this weird, why am I in this? Why is everything negative? What's going on here? Which they use to block and distort the light of truth. The light of truth that's always trying to shine down into us. But if you've got this fog of emotion right here, nothing, you just like you think about a really dense forest, barely any light makes it down to the forest floor. The same thing, if we're deprived of that, there's no way we're going to be able to push back on this. Or else they torture us with anxiety. And here's so fascinating. Back when he was writing this, psychology wasn't even really a thing. I don't think that the term, there wasn't a science of studying the mind, but what he's describing here really seems to line up with the way that various kinds of mental problematic situations exist these days. Torture us with anxiety. How many of you are dealing with anxiety at some level? How many people are crippled by this in their lives? This is a common technique. Another device, and this one is the coolest one. Not cool good, but cool like, oh, he nailed it. Another device they use is to train our thoughts on a single issue with no let up. And even just going, I remember like back when I was first reading this, going to like online forums and seeing people's things they were dealing with. And you have some people completely stuck, and I've had it too, on one thing. And this is just kind of like the make or break thing of their life, or they're guilty over something and they just can't let it go. I remember talking to people who just couldn't get over this one thing. This is what hell does, because it's a very good device to getting somebody to lose all joy in life and lose all hope in life. On the other hand, you get some people, when I had, if you just wanted my psychological history, I had OCD, our friend, obsessive compulsive disorder, which is I've got the door closed in the wrong way. I've just got to close it again. And I got to close it again. And I got to close it again. And I got to close it 7 times because that's the right number or something. And you just can't get your mind out of it, right? They fill it up with crazy notions and at the same time secretly tie our cravings into the insanity. One of the things you're always wondering when you have stuff going wrong is, why do I care? Like I was saying before, why do I care about this? Why can't I just relax? It's because there's all this underhanded kind of tying the vital stuff of you. It's like, no, I care because my hand is caught in the door here. And wherever this car goes, I have to go. This is the way that you can have total falsity coming in and making a huge impact, even when you know some of the truth. And even when falsity is just so can't stand up to scrutiny. If you can actually shine the light on it, it disappears. But they keep the light from coming in because they're pulling all the levers. Really bad. Really a bad way to spend your life, guys. What are you doing? Talking to the evil spirits, of course. They have countless other underhanded methods as well, which could never be described intelligibly. Because remember, he's talking about this, sort of combat in another reality, the sort of the psychological world, but extended out into what he calls the spiritual world. There's stuff going on there that we can only understand the tip of the iceberg around. And to prove that point, little of this reaches our conscious awareness, and only in its most general outlines. And this is why I can get into a number from Swedenborg about evil spirits and not just think he's talking about something weird that I never heard of and doesn't have to do with me. He's not saying that we feel, oh my gosh, this evil spirit came. We're not really aware of the causes of all this and what's going on. What you get from it is this vague outline of that struggle. And certainly what I've experienced, I don't know if you've experienced, would really fit as a vague outline of this, that I could see that being the underpinning of what's going on. And it's all very strange stuff, but I was looking for all kinds of psychological tools, and there's certainly helpful stuff in modern psychology and nutrition and medication, whatever it is, but nothing moved things like this does. That's what made it so that I would be willing to give something this weird a chance, because it works. Strange things have been discovered about life to be true. Maybe this is. And it's the only thing that gives a satisfying answer to why are there negative thoughts in the first place? If we go back to just the picture of the mind against the person, why is that even there? My hand is not trying to strangle me. Why is my brain trying to make me miserable? And it is our conscious awareness of right and wrong, or our conscience, right, more than anything else, that these evil spirits take the greatest delight in destroying. They're not just doing it because it's their 9 to 5. This is what they thrive on. It's kind of what they feed on. You think of this like sadistic kind of mindset that you see in people. This becomes something you're obsessed with when you get into the spirit form, if you make it a part of your life. And it's kind of like just a like predator-prey situation. Of course, as we were seeing in the previous episode, this is all in the context of us going through a process that in the end makes us better. But from their perspective, they're just trying to destroy. That's bad. This is in case you're wondering, should I do the hellish lifestyle or the heavenly lifestyle? I would say that heaven is better because you don't end up having to do this for a living, right? That's wherever you get your joy from, there's some price. The joy of heaven makes everyone else happier. The joy of hell might make you happy, but it makes everybody else miserable. Where are your shoes being made? Where are the things you're using? What's the supply chain effect? Think about that spiritually as well as physically. These few details, very few, give some idea of what it's like to be tested. In general, the nature of our trials matches the nature of our love, because love is what they attack, and love is what's going to stand after it's over and we make it through. And that's the news from heaven. How'd it go? Did it feel like any of this strange, way out there, what video did I click on, evil spirit combat stuff? Did anything in there ring true as like, oh wait, I felt something analogous to that just in my heart and mind? Let me know, did your mood improve at all from the beginning of the show to the end of the show? Let me know in the comments, because then we can know if we're doing this show right, to try to give you good tools. And do you feel like you got any tools that you could take away? What from all this craziness can you use next time you're starting to get down? Let me know, because I'd love to add that to my roster as well. Thanks everybody for hanging out, and we would love it if you would like and subscribe, because then you never know. This, as bizarre as this whole thing is, maybe it's just what someone needs to see, and they'll see it because you clicked like, clicked subscribe, and therefore shoot this out into YouTube. And if people don't like it, they just click away. And it ain't hurting nobody. So we'll see you next week. Thanks again.